Drank a cup of coffee with Maxx this morning. Love talking ball with him, and look forward to continuing those conversations. He was the first one in here this morning working out, so I fired me up. We want him to be a part of our success going forward. There's no doubt about that. And he's one of the best players in the NFL. So that's a no-brainer to get to work with Maxx and see him continue to have success with this organization.
Should there be a statute of limitations on how many years you can display a Super Bowl trophy? It's jarring, isn't it, to see that image of John Spytek, the GM of the Raiders, flanked by Clint Kubiak, the new head coach, with 3 Super Bowl trophies, when the last one that they won was in early 1984. Like, at some point, you're trolling yourself. Aren't you? Do we have the image of that? Do we have the still? It really is stunning to see those 3 trophies. Because the Raiders, since going to the Super Bowl and losing to the Buccaneers early 2003, they haven't done anything. They've been to playoffs twice. Won and done both times. So they're trying to get back to the days when they actually got their hands on Lombardi trophies. But at least they have 3. Some teams don't have any. Some teams have never even been to a Super Bowl. So that's what the Raiders are trying to build. Michael Holley is back now. And Michael, let me ask you that question. I don't know if you heard me pose it, but with the Raiders having their 3 Lombardi trophies from 1976, 1980, and 1983 at their press conference, should there be a statute of limitations on how long you can display a Super Bowl trophy? And at what point are you simply trolling yourself by doing so?
Yes. Yes, there should be a statute of limitations. It should be probably about 20 years. About 20 years. A generation. So if it's more than a generation since you won a Super Bowl, do not mention winning a Super Bowl. I think at Aaron Glenn's press conference last year, they should have brought the trophy from Super Bowl III. Okay, like, come on, like how far are we going to take this thing? I think the Raiders, nobody thinks about the Raiders as a championship organization, and they shouldn't think of themselves that way. They're not that. It's almost like they're mocking their own history. So yeah. I'd say 20 years is a limit, and that probably is going too far as well. I mean, 20 years ago, okay, here's a closer to home for you. If the Steelers continue to talk about their championships, then now they're getting close to that. They're getting close to the 20-year mark, right? I think it was like 2008 is the last time they won it.
Yes.
We're in 2026. Yep. We don't want to hear about the proud tradition of the black and gold and, pursuing another Lombardi. No, how about just get to the playoffs and win a playoff game? So at some point, your history becomes, you're kind of handcuffed by it. It becomes a curse a little bit if you just keep holding on to it and you don't move on to the modern realities of what your franchise is.
I remember when they finally won their first Super Bowl. 1974 season at the expense of the Vikings, 16-6, Tulane Stadium in New Orleans. One of the headlines in the local paper, because I grew up near Pittsburgh, took 42 years to win this thing. Hell, they're almost halfway to another 42 years between number 6 and number 7, if number 7's out there anyway. Okay, so the Raiders are trying to get to number 4. Trying. And we talked earlier about how they tanked by not playing Maxx Crosby or Brock Bowers for the final 2 games of the season. Congratulations, they got the first overall pick in the draft. Now, what happens with Crosby? Jay Glazer said last week at Radio Row, Crosby is done with the Raiders, and Jay Glazer has a pipeline to Maxx Crosby. He's quoted Maxx Crosby in the days since the Raiders shut him down against his wishes. I ran the Glazer report by someone in the know, and I was told to draw my own conclusions, which I always do. I don't think Crosby wants to be there. There have been other reports suggesting he's made it clear to the team he doesn't want to be there. Here's Maxx Crosby from the Let's Go podcast on rumors, reports, scuttlebutt regarding whether or not he wants to continue to play for the Raiders.
People are going to have rumors. I just looked at my phone. I've been working all morning. I got another, everyone's hit me up. Did you say this? I can't control that. You earn that as a player. If I wasn't doing the right things and if I wasn't the person and player I was, people wouldn't be talking about all the nonsense. But that's what comes with it. If you have drama, if you have a losing season, they just try to throw gasoline on the fire and make, things a certain way. And for me, I know what I'm about. I know what I represent. You know what I mean? I really don't care what everybody has to say. I used to a lot as a young guy. I really don't give a damn. If people could have their own opinions. I know what's going on. I know my truth. And I don't need to sit here and keep, rehashing it to people that don't know what's going on. So I don't even waste time with it.
Great explanation. Very well said. Love Maxx Crosby. No denials detected in any of those words.
Right. Exactly, Mike. I heard a lot of things, but I didn't hear him say, I didn't say it, because he introduced it. He said, people said to me, did you say these things? He didn't come out and say, no, I didn't say those things. And nor did he say, I want to be a Raider. This is where I want to be. I believe in what they're doing. I have a great relationship with Tom Brady. I believe that Clint Kubiak is the right choice. He didn't say any of those things. He kind of went down a side road to distract some. It will work for some, but for those paying attention, we're not buying it. Of course, Jay Glazer didn't make it up. Of course, he wants out. He put his time in. You think about how many coaches and how many promises that Maxx Crosby has had in his Raiders career, and all the dysfunction and all the players that he's seen come and go and all the things that he's heard. I think it's finally at the point, and I understand it. I'm Team Max on this one. I hope he does go somewhere where he can actually be a part of a good organization, and we can see him participate in some meaningful games.
And when you think about it, all the crap that he's dealt with, the one place he finds his joy, that he experiences his freedom, is in playing. And they kept him from doing the thing that he loves to do, period. And look, the biggest clue that there is something to it, and people use metaphors sometimes without thinking. They use words without thinking. They say, how are you, when they don't really mean it. But when he says people try to throw gasoline on the fire, there's a fire. If there's no fire, the gasoline is just going to hit the ground and evaporate. Gasoline on the fire. And gives me a flashback to the first time I ever saw lighter fluid get squirted onto a stubborn barbecue. And you get a hell of an eruption. If there's no fire going, you're just squirting solvent into the air. So, yeah, there's something there. There's something there. And look, Sims and I talked about this earlier in the week, and I've seen people argue that they should keep him. No, he's 28. He's only got a finite number of years left in his prime. Now is the time to leverage the asset. If we're going to view the contract as an asset, if we're going to regard every player as a piece, interchangeable, in a giant football machine that inevitably is going to be removed and replaced with something else, he's not going to be around for the payoff. Said the same thing about Myles Garrett last year with the Browns. He wants out. They want to keep him. Why don't you trade him? This is the most you're ever going to get for him, although they'd probably get more this year after he set the single-season sack record and was the Defensive Player of the Year. But you don't want to wait until it's too late. And do you really think he's going to be there when this thing turns around? I don't think Garrett's going to be in Cleveland when it turns around, and I don't think that Crosby's going to be in Las Vegas when it turns around. So why not get more pieces, address more of your deficiencies on your roster, and start planning for the day when you're going to be a team that is competitive, because by then Maxx Crosby is either going to be too banged up to play at a high level or he's going to retire.
Yeah, and I think Garrett knows he won't be in Cleveland when they turn it around, but at least he got a new contract out of it. So that's what happened. I believe that he was sincere when he just went around last year and said he's done with Cleveland and released a statement saying, hey, this was not about just going from Cleveland to Canton. I want to win some playoff games too. But then they gave him a significant contract. He said, okay, well, I guess I can put up with it a little longer. For Maxx Crosby, I guess I guess if they came up with a new contract for him, produced some new money, maybe that would buy them a year or two of peace. But I think with, a second-year general manager and a first-year head coach, this is the time to do it. They got the first pick in the draft, too. You're trying to bring in a new voice and a new culture. And not that Maxx Crosby is bad for your culture, but he remembers all the other coaches who came in and said it's going to be different this time. So you probably should flip him for some additional draft picks, since draft picks matter so much to you because you were tanking at the end of the 2025 season.
This is his sixth head coach since he's been with the Raiders. John Gruden, Rich Bisaccia, Josh McDaniels, Antonio Pierce, Pete Carroll, and now Clint Kubiak. It really is unbelievable. And last year they gave him a contract that made him temporarily the highest paid player at the position. They took some money and moved it around and pumped it up, and it got him to like 35.5, 36.5. He was top of the market, and then Myles Garrett went to 40, and now Micah Parsons is up around 47. And maybe they just throw money at him. Maybe that's how they fix it. Sims said one of the reasons why the Raiders could maybe get more than the Cowboys got for Micah Parsons is because the contract is favorable through 2029. I don't think he's walking through the door saying, I'm perfectly fine with the contract that I previously signed. The market has changed. And if somebody is willing to give up multiple first-round picks for Maxx Crosby, I think he's got every right to say, I'd like to have my contract adjusted to reflect my status relative to my peers. I think T.J. Watt ended up doing a little bit more than Myles Garrett, too. So you got three guys making more, one of them making considerably more than Maxx Crosby. So I think that's part of this as well. So the difference, too, is, and this could help the Raiders get more than the Cowboys got, by the time the Cowboys began the process of trying to trade Micah Parsons, it was either the Packers or the Eagles, and they weren't going to trade him to the Eagles. They couldn't move him to an AFC team. By the time you get to August, dollars have been spent. Every team has a budget. Dollars are spent. You may have cap issues. And hell, the Cowboys, they should have done it before the draft, and they could have used the picks in the draft last year to improve their team. The picks they got kick in next year. So there are valid reasons to do it now, and I think you may be able, like the Texans did with Deshaun Watson. It's one of the great coups of all time, that Nick Caserio, the GM of the Texans, was able to get four teams to the table. The Browns, Saints, Panthers, and Falcons, for a guy who hadn't played since 2020 and had a suspension coming for more than 20 lawsuits, and we knew he was going to get suspended that year, to get those teams pre-approved basically with significant draft pick compensation. That's what the Raiders could do. If they play this right, they don't even need to act like they want to keep him. All you need is two teams fighting with each other. You get 2, 3, 4, 5 teams, you're going to end up leveraging. It becomes a competition. I remember how it felt 4 years ago when they did the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. It's the closest thing we're going to have to a competition in the offseason. And it felt that way. And hell, when the Browns were the first ones out, they regrouped and they came back with a 5-year, $230 million fully guaranteed contract offer because they wanted to win the competition for Deshaun Watson. So if the Raiders play this right, they could come out of this with significant pieces aimed at making their team better.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. And forget about acting like they want to keep them. Just come out and say it. We're entertaining offers for Maxx Crosby, because it's very rare that we can say that the Raiders have leverage in any situation. But this is the leverage they have in a very strange way, is that they already have the number 1 pick in the draft. So there's not a sense that they're trying to, hey, I'm going to try to get your top draft pick. Well, maybe, but they already have the top draft. What they're trying to do is come away with something, a good haul and something additive to what they already have. So it's not like they're a team that's picking 27th or 28th, and they're trying like hell to get your top 5 pick. They could even have some creativity where they look for draft picks this year or next year. You say, we'll trade Maxx Crosby, this year it'd be a second, and based on how he performs this year, if he reaches certain levels, we want your first in 2027. So, which is also, I hate to do this. Now you got me on this tanking thing, which 2027, which is also going to be a bumper draft crop with some pretty good quarterbacks and best receiver in college football and Jeremiah Smith and some others. So if they're really thinking strategically, they can get something for 26 and 27.
And we'll see how strategically they think. We'll see if they're capable of handling this situation properly. We'll see what Tom Brady's influence does or doesn't do. And it really is going to be impossible for him to run and hide on this question of it's not on him. 2025 was on him, even if very few will say so. I'm one of the few. 26 is clearly on him. From the moment they fired Pete Carroll and they issued the statement saying that moving forward, John Spytek, working in close collaboration with Tom Brady, will be running the football operations. Brady is involved. And, it's funny. I've seen pictures from the Clint Kubiak press conference. I saw some great Raiders of years gone by, guys who were involved in the winning of those 3 Super Bowl trophies. Tommy wasn't there.
Excellent point.
And can't help but wonder whether he's still trying to maintain that distance. And I guarantee you, Michael, the minute they start winning, he's going to be around more. He's going to be present. He's going to be wearing that awesome white silk Al Davis jacket with the great logo. I mean, the Raiders have one of the top 2 or 3 uniforms, maybe in all of sports. And it's a great logo, and it's just a great look. And we'll see him in it a lot more when they start winning. And the other thing, too, and Sims and I were talking about this the other day, as it relates to Clint Kubiak planning to call Tom Brady all the time, the realities of the inside information that Tom Brady picks up out and about, the trends, who the good players really are, who we should be targeting in free agency, what's happening within the confines of a given season that may be advantageous to our team. The moment they start contending, that's when all the teams that were fine with this are going to start whining about it, and they're going to want it to change. And all the things they should have said before he got clearance to have this dual role as the Fox lead NFL analyst and minority owner of the Raiders, and they didn't say boo, and they should have. They're going to be saying a lot more than boo when the Raiders are good, because they're going to be saying that's why they're good. They're cheating, just like what the Patriots had to deal with. When the owners would come in, bring their coach in, why can't you compete with the Patriots? They cheat. So if we're ever at a time where owners are saying, why can't you compete with the Raiders? Well, Tom Brady's got this great spot where he can find out all this stuff, and it's helping their team get better. So that's why. That's what'll cause the groundswell. Until they're good, everybody's fine with it. The minute they get good and Tom Brady starts wearing that white jacket and showing up for the big press conferences and being involved, that's when there's going to be other teams saying, this can't continue.
Yeah, it's a great point about Brady not being there, Mike. I wanted somebody to ask that question. I don't know if they did at the press conference. Why isn't Tom Brady here? I know Kubiak was asked, will you rely on Tom Brady? And that's what he said. Hey, he was crazy enough to give me his cell phone. I'm going to use it all the time. But Tom Brady, part owner of the Raiders, football person who Mark Davis said he's going to help us find our next quarterback. He's very involved. Why isn't he at this important press conference? And actually, Mike, I defended Brady when all of New England, I always said the 5.5 New England states, because half of Connecticut roots for New York teams and half of Connecticut roots for Boston teams. So like the 5.5 New England states that are Patriots fans, they turned against Brady when he had the audacity to say, I don't have a dog in the fight, when it was Seahawks Patriots. And I said, well, I understand that Tom Brady, the #1 Fox analyst, is not going to say, I want the Patriots to win. And Tom Brady, the owner, team builder of the Raiders, who's about to hire the Seahawks offensive coordinator, is not going to say, I want the Patriots to win. I understand it. But now I don't get it. I thought he was kind of protecting his interest. But your interest, you're supposed to be building the Las Vegas Raiders, and they name a new head coach, and you're not there? You got the #1 pick in the draft. He's an OC who can theoretically help your quarterback room. and you're not there at the press conference. So I really don't understand what he's doing. I know we disagreed last time we talked about this, and I said I thought he really improved as a game analyst in 2025. But to improve as a team builder, I think you got to show up. I think you have to show up. And does Tom Brady even live in Vegas? Does he have a place in Vegas, or
lives
does
in
he
Miami?
Pop in?
I'm assuming he's got a place in Vegas. I think he can afford a bungalow in Las Vegas, but his primary residence is in Miami. But you know, I can't tell whether it's I don't want to closely associate myself with a losing organization in an overt way and be present for this thing, or is it, given how stung he was by the criticism when most finally recognized that there is a conflict of interest, Monday night, week 2, he's sitting in the booth for Raiders-Chargers, and he's on the screen with the headset and the tablet, and he hits the button, so he slides down. Like, maybe he is sensitive to being too openly associated with the Raiders, because that's going to get jerks like me talking even more about how he shouldn't be doing both, because he believes he can do both. He believes there isn't a conflict. Well, there is, because you can't do both. Miles Simmons made the point as well, if not better than I've heard anyone else make it. It's this simple. If you're truly committed to being the best in the world at what you're doing, it's impossible for Tom Brady to be the best broadcaster in the world and the best minority owner of the Raiders in the world. The two things overlap and conflict, because as a part owner of the Raiders, he should be trying to leverage everything he can. Al Davis would say, do whatever you have to do. Hey, when you're in one of those production meetings, see if you can steal a playbook. That's what Al Davis would say. So you can't do both, right? You can't do that. Was commonplace. I mean, the stuff that they said the Patriots were doing shit in the 60s and 70s and 80s, they did anything they could to get an edge. If you weren't cheating, you weren't trying. So I don't know where it goes from here, but I do know this. If they're ever consistently good, there's going to be teams, the same teams that were pissed about the tush push because the Eagles won a Super Bowl using it. They're going to be pissed about Tom Brady having this unique and unprecedented opportunity to gather information about trends, about teams, about players, about coaches, about anything and everything that could be useful to the construction, maintenance, and operation of the Raiders.
You know, Mike, I'm also surprised by this. I'm not even trying to be cheeky here with this Tom Brady situation. I'm surprised by this. You work with professional athletes, former professional athletes, all the time. And what do we hear? What do we hear from professional athletes, even those who have made successful transitions from playing, coaching to broadcasting? That there's something that they still miss it. They still miss the camaraderie from plane rides, bus rides, the locker room, the meeting rooms, just hanging at the cafeteria just with their teammates, going on the road and winning a big road game and silencing 60,000 to 70,000 people. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it in broadcasting, even though they're very good at it. And you work with some people who are very good at it. So if I'm Brady, if I have to make a decision about Fox and the Raiders, well, what I would think a guy like Tom Brady would enjoy, hey, I'm not playing quarterback for the Raiders, but I'm a part of team building. I'm still in the NFL. My team, I can put something together. I can throw my resources, my expertise at this problem, and I could turn the Raiders into a contender. I would think that competitive drive that he has, that challenge it's a mountainous challenge. We know that. We talked about the last time the Raiders won a Super Bowl. I would think Tom Brady would be drawn to that and would throw everything he has into it. But it seems like he's just just stepping his remember the Eddie Murphy skit from Saturday Night Live where he's dipping his toe in the water. he's doing I think he's doing James Brown, and he's just putting his toe in the water and he's coming
too
back
hot.
out.
Too hot in the hot tub.
Yeah, there it is. And so I think he's doing that. He's doing the James Brown, Eddie Murphy hot tub and not really jumping in to being a team builder.
Well, I got a couple responses. One, golden handcuffs are a powerful thing. When you're making $37.5 million a year from Fox, you ain't gonna walk away from it. Two, when it keeps you highly relevant and in a very significant profile by the 25 to 30 million that are tuning in to watch the games that you call, that's hard to walk away from too. And I think he's got bigger plans than just owning a piece of the Raiders. I mean, he managed to get his chunk of the Raiders without having to spend as much as what the market value would be. And part of that reason is Mark Davis wanted him to lend his expertise. Davis said it last year. Brady's the guy that they brought in to stabilize the franchise. He's the guy that was doing what John Gruden was doing. And I remember when Mark Davis said that, I thought, what the hell's Pete Carroll think about this? But Tom Brady's the guy that Mark Davis leans on. Hey, one of these days, that team may be for sale. Man, I just have a feeling Brady's going to try to find a way to buy the thing, to get it for less than maybe what it would go for on the open market, and to end up running the Las Vegas Raiders. And when that time comes, that's when it becomes his sole focus. Because I think all this other stuff he's doing is all in the name of acquiring enough money that he can own as a principal owner an NFL team. Once you have that money printing machine, then that's the thing that justifies your full focus and attention.
Well, if that's his end game, okay, I respect the hustle, but think about Mark's dad. Al Davis didn't always make the right decisions. He was drawn to speedy players, even if those players were not necessarily great football players, especially some of his draft picks in the late 80s and early 90s and mid 90s. Just a lot of guys who like, oh, what were you thinking there, Al? But he wanted to win. He clearly wanted to win, and he didn't always make the right choices, but he was in it. So I think if Tom Brady's goal is to ultimately control the Raiders, he still has to put some time in and try to turn the team around before his big goal happens.
Well, and that makes it even more desirable for him to be in charge at a time when they have turned it around. And I guess there's a chance that one day he realizes, I'm just not very good at this, and he stops trying. But for now, it's year two. He'd like us to think it's year one. It's year two. And last year was not a good year. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.